The word organic. When you say organic, most people who are still doing 4 thinks that organic is how Mother Nature grows. You put a seed in the ground and it grows into a plant and it produces fruits or vegetables. But this has nothing to do with the definition of organic in 5. Organic in values level 5 is a process, first of all, and it presupposes how the soil is being maintained, what chemicals are allowed to be used. There are over 100 different pesticides allowed in organic growth according to organic law. So it has nothing to do with how Mother Nature builds the plant. So it's simply a different understanding of the same word. 5 redefines words. 5 does that. 4 is so tight in the box and inside their rules and regulations, so many rules and regulations you can't escape. So the only way is to work around by manipulation, not blunt manipulation like in 3, but very sly manipulation with words. That's why I insist on learning language. So 5 will redefine words, and if you don't understand the words, you won't understand the message. You won't understand the PR, the public relations. You won't understand the sales campaigns or the political campaigns because you'll misinterpret everything that's out there. 5 needs self-expression. In the process of rejecting everything, you throw away the baby with the bathwater. 5 would not want to have any emotions, not because they think emotions are bad, but because the world of a true 5 competes for percentages, market share profit, and all that kind of stuff. And these are quite AD concepts from the pure 5 point of view, especially and mostly the aberrant form of 5 because it's so extreme. We're not human beings, we're consumers. So when you refer to another person as a consumer, you don't care what you sell them. You can sell them poison because it doesn't matter to you. You just made money. So it's good when companies develop a little bit of 6 because humanity, that has human relationships. When you're in 5, you don't care what they said. And in their arrogance, they'll say, it's not my duty to tell you it's poison. It's your duty to figure out whether it's good for you or not. If you buy, more power to me. I fooled you to buy my product. Done. Then we have all sorts of dramas and situations. You end up in court and we end up knowing, all the big things that happen in the media. And that's because everyone in 5 ends up in court. It's a world of lawyers, contracts, interpreting the law this way or that way. And in the process of becoming very materialistic and practical in nature, 5 creates a world of pragmatism. Everything's pragmatic. It's the power of man over nature. And if you look again what our man over nature has done, and I want you to pay attention to the words, because we're being told, look what we have done to the planet. Now we have the deniers. They go, nothing's happening to the planet. Oof, yes, it is. The environment's been totally screwed up. But we're being told what we have done to the planet. 4's buying the collective guilt. Oh my God, look what we have done to the planet. 5 goes, excuse me, what have I done to the planet? I recycle. And if they have, especially 6, I don't throw away any food. I go out in nature and I leave it cleaner than I found it, because if I find some rubbish, I take it with me and throw it away. I'm not the one who made a big explosion in the Gulf of Mexico. That was Exxon and BP destroying life in Mexico. I'm not the one that cuts the Amazon forest. It's the big corporations. And because they're very smart in using the law to their advantage, these very rich transnational corporations, which are extreme versions of 5, they don't pay tax. Who pays the tax? People like us, but they don't pay tax because they know how to work around the law. You see, 3 breaks the law, doesn't have a problem breaking the law until they're caught. 5 bends the law. And if you remember in 5, express yourself without the wrath of others, which means it works around the law, bends the law to suit their own circumstances. That's why we have so many lobbyists. People don't understand how elections work. It's all based on money because it's based on political campaigns. Campaigns need money, millions and millions of dollars. Now, if you were to be a big donor to a political candidate, it doesn't matter from which party. From your point of view, you make a big donation, usually a very big donation. And then if that candidate is elected, do you think you own them? You betcha. You and your donation have put them in power. Now you've got your man there, or woman, doesn't matter. Now you come with the lobbyists and you say, okay, I want my favor. So you bend the law so I can do this and that. It's all about economics. Unfortunately, most people are not educated in economics to understand the games that go on behind the PR and the lofty words and whatever you're being told, because it's economical and financial. And that's because the big transnational corporations are doing a good solid 5. And that's what they do because they are using rational mind, meaning the conscious mind, the mechanistic approach, meaning your body is made out of parts that are interchangeable. If something doesn't work, they can make it mechanical and put in some screws or replace your liver or replace this or cut that out. Put some plastic things in, whack in a few ceramics, everything's replaceable. It's mechanistic. There is enough you in 5, but like I said, chemical reactions and electromagnetic fields, that's the scientific materialistic version of 5. So let's not get caught too much into the content, but it's a necessary step because we did everything non-materialistic. So now we have to do everything materialistic. And after that, in 6, we start combining them and then we can progress further. We are always flip-flopping. 4 was the right brain hemisphere, 5 is the left brain, predominantly thinking, meaning the conscious mind muscle. So we analyze 5, 6 to comprehend which is good, but not necessarily to explain why, but to understand why, and especially how to change what is. Now, 5 values equality of work because we all have the same opportunity. We all have a right thinking mind. We all have the right to proceed and do what we want. So mechanical measuring quantitative, not qualitative, but quantitative approaches to problems, gamesmanship. 5 will play golf, not for the heck of playing golf or camaraderie or friendship. 5 plays golf in order to do business deals. 5 will go to parties, not formal as 4, but the parties are always business parties and discussions. Competition's a big word in 5. 5 is overly competitive. And if they don't have someone to compete with, they'll compete against themselves. Now imagine a partnership, a relationship, a family where you've got 2 people that are in 5. They will compete against each other like crazy. What did you do today? I did better. No, I did better. It's always a competition. As long as it's friendly competition, which pushes both of them, then it's fine. But sometimes it gets ugly because it's jealousy. The entrepreneurial attitude is important in 5. Efficiency, very important keyword in 5. Work simplification. We see that in automation of everything. Streamlined. You know, you could do all the work that we used to do, but now we're streamlining it to AI, to machines, to systems, to apps, to programs, to everything that will do the work for us. 5s do calculated risk, but in a different way compared to 4, although 5 can also do scamming and manipulation. I'm talking about pure 5 without any other influences or percentage of 6 or leftover 4, full on 5. It's hard to find full on 5 pure of anything these days. Most people would exhibit a percentage of one level and a percentage of another. But 5 understands the thinking of the person and knows they are not born that way. The ones that are born in super rich family, that's another story. The meaning of 5, the person that progresses and grows through values level 5, they understand that they've created themselves by their own effort. And it's a lot of effort and hard work. But unfortunately, many times 5s think that because they've succeeded, because they've been willing to put in the work, they're now superior to lead and to tell others what to do. And that's the arrogance that you'll see many times in 5, and 4 will always say 5s are arrogant. I did it, why don't you? And 5 also demonstrates above everything else a will to power play because they value calculated risk, force, and energy. They live in and demand full loyalty to the secular power source. They believe in science, and that's it, the state. In 5, you don't have a soul, you don't have a spirit. There is still a book because there is still enough dogmatism, but it's not the religious book or the manual. It's the book that the corporation made for themselves, the book that they made, the organizational manual that they created. So I made my own book. I made my own set of rules. 5 is profit, money, nationalism, individualism, but especially profit and material success, because 5 thinks they won't survive unless they make a lot of money. Their death is the result of not making money. It's just the way they think. So 5 have this redefinition of words and bending the law. They influence the judiciary, meaning the system of laws and the justice departments, to respond to their needs. State courts interpret the law so it favors corporations, and you've seen that so many times. They sponsor trips, invite people to fancy and expensive cocktail parties, or offer them holidays. This all started during Reagan times, which was back in the 80s, and then with President Bill Clinton, who was a good solid 5, it took off even more. We gave free speech to corporations, which by all linguistic markers is a mistake because a corporation is a legal entity and not somebody who can speak. So that's a selection restriction violation. According to the law, the corporation has the same free speech right as the individual. The problem is that if you as an individual break the law, you go to prison. If a corporation breaks the law, who goes to prison? Nobody. Because there's such thing as corporate bail and a way of deferring responsibility. So the corporation is a legal entity invented by 5 to avoid the rulership of 4. If you research very carefully, many countries around the world are actually incorporated. So many countries are corporations. The United States became a corporation in the 70s. So we have 2 United States, the United States of America and the United States Incorporated. It's a corporation. The business aspect, the values level 5 has come to real power in the 1800s and 1900s. And that's the coming to the top of the values level 5, corporate power, and they're still very much in power. So the 4th system that enabled mega corporations, the amount of power they have today, is another ism. It's called globalism, which started about 20 years ago. Now, people have not noticed this, and nothing's national anymore. Everything's outsourced. Food comes from there and there and there. On some packages, if you're lucky, it may say maybe the property of Australia or in the United States or Canada, wherever, because most of the produce is outsourced. And you may think what's going on is against morals. And from 4's perspective, that's right. It's absolutely correct. But from 5 perspective, nothing's wrong. It's just different types of thinking. 5 has a very high but not unrealistic way of aspiring for a better life. It's not unrealistic. It's a very high one compared to 4 because values in general are practical and convenient. Convenience is very important in 5, and contextual values are also very important. Acceptable, in other words, based on context.